We're live.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Homestead HQ, where we talk about homesteading and preparedness. We've got a special live edition for you tonight. Our guest is Bill Stoker from Stokermatic.
Hey, hey, Bill, and it's good to have you, Bill. I'm Jason. We're back, and we got, like Shelly said, we got our special guest, Bill, with Stokermatic. Bill's going to be at our festival. Uh, we're going to do real quick. Let me get one thing out of the way. Vacmaster Fresh. Check out vacmasterfresh.com. There, we've got an affiliate link for them. Use the code Homestead, and you can save 15% off your order. Since we got that out of the way, Bill, Stokermatic. First, everybody, check him out on his YouTube channel. He's got some awesome stuff. Before we started this, we were talking about some of the classes that Bill had, and Bill does land nav classes and makes it, super simple that a 9-year-old could understand how to do this. And I was telling him, I'm like, I watched one of these videos, and I'm like, you made it idiot proof on how to do this stuff. It was just basic, simple stuff. I'm like, that's awesome.
So, yes, that means Jason could do it.
Yes, my 9-year-old brain could understand it.
Right.
So, but Bill, tell for anybody that doesn't know who you are, kind of give a background and tell us what you've got going on and where you came from and what you're doing now.
Yeah, right on. This is probably the most horrible part, being asked to talk about yourself. It's not something that I enjoy. But I kind of grew up, short bio. I grew up out in the mountain Southwest, working on ranches and cow punching. Then I served 8 years in the Marine Corps, most of which was in an anti-terrorism unit. Had a break-in service where I built trains of all things, actual big trains.
I was going to say model trains or real trains.
No, these are taking passengers up to Machu Picchu down at Peru. Pretty wild. And then I went back in the service, Army, this time around, and just retired last year. Got 3 deployments total. And now I do structural repair work, mainly for on residential stuff. I love teaching. I love spending time out in the woods. My backyard is national forest, so I'm out here all the time. Most important things, man, I've been married to my wife 27 years as of 3 days ago, so I'm pretty stoked about that.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Anymore, it's hard to find, and people that traditional marriage and stuff like that, and to say that, we can be married 27 years. Shelly, how long have you been married?
31. As of May, what was it? 20. When were we met? 29th, May 29th. Yeah.
I've been married to Whitney it's 12 years now. I think that's
Right.
what it is. So happy as can be. I'm not going to have any complaints. So
Right on.
You shouldn't, because you definitely married up.
For sure. Hey, she can cook like nobody's business.
Yes, she can. And she can bake like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah. Bill, do you like banana pudding?
All day long.
Oh. Well, you will get homemade banana pudding at the festival.
Nice.
So
it's like divine. Oh my God.
We've almost had a fight over it before.
Yeah, one of our guys had the glass thing like licking it, trying to get, because he was out yapping with somebody and everybody cleaned the thing out, and he came in and he's like licking the bowl or the big dish that she had it in. It's so good.
Oh yeah, it was pretty funny. But well, Bill, tell us what you've got going on as far as your place and what you're teaching and stuff like that. Your videos, you're always doing something cool in the videos. So tell them some cool stuff that you're doing and everything. I enjoy watching your videos because, in my opinion, it's not a lot of BS like a lot of people put on there. It's stuff that you can use, like your truck gun video. I watched it the other day, and you weren't like, oh, you've got to have this, Gucci $5,000 AR and everything else. It's like plain and simple stuff that somebody might actually have. Right. And it's not Gucci gear.
Yeah. No. So what I have specifically going on here is kind of an extension from what I do, the content that I make online, which for the most part is an extension of being instructor in the military, probably 6 or 7 years, and not to mention just as a non-commissioned officer, all your job is to teach other people. And when that becomes your actual job, you learn how to, if you want to be good at it, you try to figure out how to put handles on things that somebody can pick up some knowledge and take it on with them, as opposed to, like you said, you don't have, nothing's complicated, like none of it's rocket science.
Right.
Sometimes it's like music, like you learn how to do something and then you learn it's way more complicated than what you thought, and then you get better, and there's some ebb and flow in that. But I just really have always enjoyed taking something and imparting it in a way that somebody could walk away from and have some confidence in those skills. So primarily here, do a lot of land navigation. Some of it is basic and some of it is advanced, although even my advanced classes, and we'll truck out, do a total of about 7 miles on the advanced class. And it's all bushwhacking, right? It's all off-trail work. Even if somebody had no experience, they could come into my advanced class and be able to get through it without any issues. Basic survival courses, and then some patrolling classes, which is, why do we know how to use a map and compass or how to do navigation at all? Or there needs to be a purpose behind it, and it could be, some off backwoods hunting. It could be a good purpose for doing some navigation, but really for those with a prepared and resilient mindset, you're thinking of, if I have to move for whatever reason, whether it's in response to something or whatever the case is, and I need to move quite literally in this direction. There's nothing in this direction. There's not one person for another like 8 miles. How can I do that with confidence and know how to get to where I'm trying to get to while utilizing with the least amount of expenditure of my body? I want to make it as least taxing as I can. And how can I use the terrain features and what I'm going to encounter to my advantage to stay on a route, but also maybe to move in a way that other people would not expect to move, so I can evade. And so we do some evasion courses here as well. But again, it's just taking all of these basic skills of knowing how to know where you are, how to plan a route, stay on a route, and recognize the objective, and say, now that we can do this, what's the then what? And I want to try to always point that there's always a purpose for every skill that we pick up. If there's no purpose for it, then we're kind of wasting our time, to be quite
right.
And even the navigation class, I mean, people, I can see it. People are like, I plan on staying at my house and my farm, regardless. I'm bugging in, and they drive certain roads every day and they know their area. But if they're on foot, it's kind of a different story on how to walk somewhere. You're not necessarily going to walk, in 90-degree turns and take that extra step. You're going to go across the fastest way. And then people might be totally lost if they have to walk across a field. They're like, well, I'm not walking on Highway 31 now. I have to walk across this field, and Lord, they could get turned around and sideways and everything else, and have no idea where they're going.
Yeah, and yes, I mean, everybody's plan is great until you get punched in the face, right? Mike Tyson said it and did it the best in the business. All of us want things to go right, but if we take a hard, honest look at the past, we know that that's not going to be the case for the future.
Right.
So having contingency plans that are realistic, that you can actually go out and execute, and you can rehearse to become better at all of these things. And a lot of the principles apply, you know, whether we're moving out through the wilderness or moving. Yeah, I did when I was still in Washington, a series on escaping to Compton, Tacoma, Washington, right? Because Tacoma is just it's a hotbed of violence and some, quite frankly, some leftist extremism. Well, based off of the past up in the Pacific Northwest, I know that things can get shut down pretty easy. So I spent some time in, you know, how do I analyze a city and looking for resources, and how do I plan routes and alternate routes and figure out where I can go, where are some places that may almost inherently be by design safe to travel to or through, and then actually get out and go execute these things. Like we have the same principles, whether we're talking about mounted or dismounted movement or urban travel or rural travel. It's a matter of getting the fundamentals right. And that's what I really try to spend the most time that I can is, what are the fundamentals that are true regardless of the circumstance, right? The standards remain the same. The conditions may change, but the standard remains the same. And that's to get from A to B safely, regardless of whatever the condition is that I'm finding myself in. So that's where I really want to try to spend the majority of my time.
Yeah. And two, I mean, you're talking about making a route. Yeah, you could drive that route, but have you walked that route? Because driving and walking are two totally different. I mean, even the stuff that you'll see when you're walking as opposed to driving, it's almost like a different landscape, realistically.
Right.
So
yeah, everything looks good when you're moving fast, but you get out and walk, and that's one of the things I did on the West Coast is I planned a route on paper. In theory, this is what I think I want to do. And then I drove it, and then I took a bike out through it, and then I walked it just to see, because there's all kinds of different things that you're going to see. Because, like, walking, it's like writing a letter. It's very intentional, and it takes time, and it takes you into this moment, and so you're going to experience it a little bit more, and get a lot more out of it for sure.
Yeah, and just like, you know, if you've got a long stretch of road that you drive every day, you don't really notice that slight incline that you're going uphill. But if you're to put foot to butt on it, you're like, man, I didn't know there's this much slope on this hill.
Right.
That, you know, that wore me out and took me out of the game, just walking up that small incline that you drive up every day. And, you know, the RPMs, your truck doesn't even kick down in gear. It's that slight grade, but walking it, you're just like, man, I'm beat. I should have brought more water with me walking on this. So.
Yeah.
Well, and you ran into that all over Kentucky. I mean, we've got hills and hollers everywhere, and
Yes,
windy roads. And like, I grew up in Indianapolis, and everything there, it's on a grid. You know, you have Monument Circle in the center, and then everything comes out on a grid. And even one of the first jobs I ever had was delivering pizzas, and I rarely got lost because of that grid pattern. And even if I wasn't familiar with the area, I knew if the numbers were increasing, I was going north. I knew that, you know, how far I was away from the center of the city, and it was easy to navigate. But it's not like that here in Kentucky. Right. My mama used to tell people, you know, they were like, why are the roads so curvy? And she'd say, well, because they followed a snake when they were making them. I mean, it's not at all like where I grew up. And if you don't know the area, like you said, driving it with a car, riding it with a bike, getting out and walking in it, then you might have some difficulty if you weren't able to, you know, drive and stay off the main roads to be safe, you know?
And then you move to Kentucky and nothing is straight, and nothing's laid out on a grid. Unless you're unless you're in a bigger city, nothing's laid out on a grid, really.
Yeah.
So, I mean, heck, Bowling Green's not even really laid out on a grid. It's just crazy. You got elevation, but now in Warren County, where I'm at, is good crop ground, so it's fairly flat right where I'm at. I mean, you can see a good ways. There's big fields and stuff like that. So, but then where you get to Shelley lives, you get more hilly and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but and that's one of the things as far as patrolling and homestead security. What I've seen is a lot of people are getting into homesteading and they've got awesome livestock, they've got awesome gardens, they've got all this stuff set aside, but they have no way to protect it. And that's kind of leading in to what you're going to talk about as far as homestead security and, securing your homestead. Have you seen that a lot with people? They just don't understand that they're going to have to protect what they've got.
Yeah, I think we all want to see the best in ourselves and our neighbors, the communities that we live in. And so there's a lot of things that we take for granted. Just like as we drive a vehicle, we take those inclines for granted. And we never think about what it's going to be like if I ever have to dismount and take whatever I can, whether it's even just a normal breakdown. Like, how are you going to get home? Now let things become a little bit more contested or nefarious, and things really begin to change. And again, I think, as we, and it's unfortunate, some of it's a blessing to want to have and live in good community. But sometimes I think we can fool ourselves because we fail to look at what history has shown us over and over and over again, that ultimately, whether it's a man-made or natural event, it's literally not a matter of if, but when. And it could be local, it could be regional, it could be nationwide, it could be global. I mean, who knows whatever that is going to be. So I think, as we go about our daily lives, like, we have some sense of, security. Most of us lock our vehicles, right? I don't always lock my car up here in North Georgia. I don't always lock my house, but in most places around the country, we do, and we do some things that have a basic semblance of security. Maybe we have some cameras or alarms or signs that we have out in our property. But we don't ever really think about the principles of what it takes to have a good defense or security program for our house and how to layer that, because we haven't taken the time or the opportunity to enter into a self-development learning domain and read and study these things, or we haven't been in an operational environment where it's had to literally be a part of your life, or we haven't had any institutional training. And so what I hope to do with everybody who comes out to Kentucky is take all of those three domains, what I've learned by experience, what I've learned in training, and what I've learned just in my own, I want to do things better in my walk. And like here in my, I don't call where I live a homestead. It's where I hang my hat, but it kind of is. These are the principles that apply regardless of where you live. These are the variables that you need to account for, so that you can take it to wherever you live and however you live and say, if I begin to apply these things in this approach, I know that I'm going to have a much more secure way of taking care of myself, my loved ones who are in my charge, and all of the property and all of the things that we have that make a day-to-day life awesome, right? Which is what we want ultimately at the end of the day.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things, the first off is, perimeter fencing for your property. I finally got all my perimeter fence finished. Shelly's getting ready to get all her perimeter fence fixed up. And I mean, that not only protects your livestock, but that's just another barrier that somebody has to come through to get, to your front door.
Absolutely.
So it's, and there's just, people just don't think a whole lot about it. And funny story on it. One of my buddies, he bought, he's a retired military guy, and he lives way out in the middle of nowhere. He bought two lots of concertina wire. And he was like, I thought I was just buying one lot, but I accidentally bid on two. So I had sold a 38 and I had a bunch of ammo for it. And I told him, I was like, your wife just got a 38. And he's like, yeah. I was like, I'll trade you this ammo for a bunch of wire. And he was like, okay, cool. So I came back with a whole truckload of wire. I mean, the bed of the truck was just stacked up. And I came driving in, and my wife goes, "What are you going to do with that?" And I was like, "We might need it one of these days." And she looked at me and she goes, "If I come home and that stuff is stretched out in the front yard, we're going to have problems." And I said, "You're damn right. We're going to have problems if I have to put that stuff out." And she really didn't get what I was saying, but then I explained it to her, and she was like, "Okay." So,
Yeah.
but he put it on the outside of his perimeter fence, and he has never had a coyote or anything come in there. And I'm like, that's a good idea.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, there's so much about just basic taking care. Even if whether you got some crops that you need to keep deer out of, right? There's all kinds of basic things that a lot of us do on our homesteads, but some of it we just don't either connect the dots of being able to apply it to something different, or we're not really, maybe we just live out in the country and we're not really homesteading. And so there's a lot of things that we also take for granted because we're not experiencing the environmental impact that happens, let alone, again, what can happen if the civil side of the house changes.
Yeah. And going along with the perimeter fence, just having like high tensile woven wire fence with a strand of barbed wire on top is going to keep out a lot of people. Yeah. They just can't. They have to be intentional to want to come onto your property.
Exactly.
So
it all makes just good sense. It's like having a lock on your door. All that does at the end of the day is it keeps honest criminals out.
Yeah.
Because you have to be intentional to do something. Keeping your doors locked keeps honest criminals from breaking into your vehicle and taking your stuff. Criminals who don't care will smash some windows, but you've already just stopped 90% of the possibilities that are out there. So, doing all the little things that we can do when it comes to defending our property is ultimately doing just that, but also preparing for those encounters when I may need to want to force somebody to go in a specific direction as they enter, because I know where they're going to be coming from. I know what that most likely avenue of approach is. And by the way, I have plans and preparations for that too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And and talking about smashing windows in, one of the police officers I go to church with, he's got an old junky Camry, and that's what he drives back and forth to work. And we were talking one day, and he's like, "I leave the car unlocked," and he's like, "There's nothing in there other than a couple dollars in change in the cup holder." He was like, "I would much rather somebody open the door and grab that change than to come back and they busted my window out." He's like, he said, "I can lose, a couple dollars in change." He's like, "But it's a pain in the butt to get a window replaced."
Right.
So, what else have you got? What should some people think about as far as homestead security? Don't ruin it, because we want everybody to come see you in person, but don't give them a few little nuggets of stuff.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all about risk mitigation, right? So identifying based off of where you live, what are the individual actions that may happen, and then build your matrix to say this is most likely to least likely, and these are the things that, regardless of their probability, this is the severity of the event, whether it's negligible or whether it's catastrophic. And as you build out all of these things, now you're just taking the time. It's like writing a letter. It's very intentional in how you approach things, and say we have some factors that may be, again, more natural based. It could be, I lived in North Carolina for a long time. I know how to deal with hurricanes. And so I plan, prepare, and execute plans as needed for that when I was on the coast. Now I don't have so much of a concern about that, but I could get some bands from a hurricane still come up and hit me. So I identify that, hurricane, not likely, and ultimately negligible, because the bands, they're just going to give me rain. But I still identify it as something that can happen, because even though it may not be such a significant event, it may have a more significant impact on the community that I live in. Because as we all know, right before a hurricane hits is when everybody goes to Lowe's. That's when everybody goes to the grocery stores. That's when everybody does all of the things finally to get ready for something. And so everything disappears off the shelves and prices go up and lines get long. Well, you can't wait for that if you want to truly be as self-reliant as you can. And whether it's a forest fire, I'm gonna have that on my list. Of course, I'm going to be thinking about thieves and burglary. I'm going to take all of these individual actions and just rack and stack them as far as how likely they are to what their severity is going to be, and the things that are most likely and have a higher degree of severity are the things I'm going to put the most stock and interest in when it comes to actually preparing for these things. I'm not going to invest a ton of money into something that I deem is never going to happen, even though it may be catastrophic. I need to deal with the things that are probably going to happen at some point in time and are going to have an impact on me or my family. And so we take all of these things, and now I have all these things identified. I need to know, okay, so then what? So then let me begin to identify based off the parameters of whether we're in a permissive environment or a non-permissive environment, and say what are the variables I need to think about as I'm planning my approaches to how I'm going to mitigate those risks that I just identified. Because even though something may be catastrophic, if there's anything I can do to mitigate it, to reduce that risk to something that's acceptable, that's exactly what I need to do. Maybe it is just having a couple pallets of concertina wire that's sitting on the side. You've identified something, and now you've implemented a control so that if something happens, then you're prepared to execute your plan. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, that's ultimately what it's all about.
Yeah. And like Shelly and I, a big concern, like you brought up hurricanes. There's no reason for us to buy hurricane shutters and everything like that in Kentucky. It's like unless sea levels drastically change, like they've been saying it's going to for the last 50 years, we're not going to have any hurricanes here. So it's just it's a stupid thing to purchase.
Right.
But
having a basement to deal with tornadoes, that's probably a good idea, or a storm shelter, because that's what we run into here. So,
yeah, and you would be far ahead of the game to do a storm shelter here as opposed to hurricane shutters. And that is, too many people get wrapped around the axles of, oh my gosh, this is going to happen, and they get that tunnel vision of this is the only thing I'm preparing for, and the likelihood of that event actually happening is slim to none. There's still a sliver of chance that it might happen, but they get wrapped around the axles on that one thing, and then it's something else happens, and it's like, oh man, I didn't even think about preparing for that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, and some things that we do, like I drive around in my truck, and I got a box full of recovery gear that I carry with me everywhere I go. I got all kinds of equipment to recover myself or somebody else if they get off the road. But truth is that the likelihood of me getting stuck somewhere and needing to winch myself out is slim to nil. Because I'm not 20 anymore. I don't drive like an idiot. But I still carry these things, because it still may happen to me, but also I am more likely to encounter somebody who needs help.
Because there's a lot of idiots.
Yeah. Well, and same with, carrying jumper cables in my truck. Like, I'm probably never going to need them for me, but I want to be ready to help somebody else when they need it. And if I can be that person to make somebody's day a little bit better, that's what I'm going to do. So even as we're preparing for some of these more larger events to happen, they may not even happen to us. It could happen to our family members another county away. It could just be a couple cities away that gets a Summer of Love 2.0, and things really shut down and lives are impacted. Well, how can I be best prepared to help those people that I know during these times? Like, we can go about things being completely selfish or selfless, but sometimes we have to understand that there's second, third order of effects that for everything that we do,
Yeah. And you need it if it's like in Georgia, if you get just a smidge, like a smidge of snow, everybody runs off the road.
That's it. We don't take
Yeah, I
much.
mean, yeah, you need, and everybody. The funny thing is, everybody around here, all the younger guys are like, I've got a 4-wheel drive truck, I can go through anything. And it's like, dude, just because you got 4-wheel drive, you can drive, but you can't stop any better than anybody else. And they're always off in the side of the ditch, and it's just like, yeah, that's why I've got a strap and a chain so we can pull you out.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I keep stuff like that. I've got a couple tow straps and a couple chains that always stay in the bed of the truck. And heck, right now, if you go crack open the toolbox on my truck, there's a pair of Carhartt overalls and a jacket in there that live in there all the time. I mean, it's almost 100 degrees here. I don't need that right now, but for some crazy reason, I've got, an extra pair of overalls and a jacket in there right now.
Mm-hmm.
That, and then and there's little stuff, I keep an extra pair of clothes in the truck regardless, because you never know. I'm a contractor, so I never know. I might have to crawl underneath somebody's crawl space, and it's just dirty and nasty. And it's like, well, at least I've got a clean pair of pants and a clean t-shirt to put on afterwards, and I don't have to be nasty all day.
Yeah, we're old enough that our moms told us to carry a pair of underwear in our trunk, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And, looking back at, there's that we laugh about it, but there's a lot of things that we used to just do, and generations before us just did as part of a way of life that we kind of take for granted with as fast as life goes now,
Right.
Well, yeah.
I know John Willis always says that, he talks about people going, starting to grow their own food and all that stuff and raise their own animals and prepping and canning and whatever. And he's like, your great grandma called that Tuesday.
Right.
It was just, that was the way of life back then. And we've gotten away from that with all the conveniences.
Yeah.
And most people now, they'll be like, well, I don't have to carry an extra pair of underwear and socks and a t-shirt in there. I'll just stop at Target and buy a new pair. And it's like, just throw it in your truck. Don't go buy new stuff every time. Right. And that's the problem. Society it's all disposable stuff. We'll just go buy new stuff. Don't clean this up. We'll just buy a new one.
Yeah, we'll just throw it away.
Yeah.
And so much, I think, as it relates to one of the ways that I've been able to connect with folks to help get them thinking that maybe they should think a little bit more about general preparedness or what they can do at their homes to grow a little bit more or whatever it is it's an investment, right? If I go and I buy something now, like let's just say I go buy 200 pounds of rice, right? It would take me forever to eat 200 pounds of rice. But I know it's going to sit for a hot minute and it's going to be okay. It has a great shelf life. And if I don't have to buy rice for another 10 years, how much is rice going to cost in 10 years? Like, who knows? But I bought it at today's prices, not tomorrow's prices.
Right.
And it seems to be true, if we're canning, if we want to can chicken or whatever it is that we want to do, like everything that we do in this respect, it's an investment in the future. But it's also the people that we are all on this path with. It's an investment in our relationships, whether it's with our kids and just teaching, spending time with them and not, watching TV or Instagram or YouTube all the time or whatever it is. We're actually doing something with our time that has meaning.
Oh yeah. And that is like the rice thing. It's kind of a hedge against inflation. If you've got stockpiles built up, I wished I would have kept notes and kept prices on a lot of the stuff I'd bought years ago just to see how much it actually costs now as opposed to, even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That, and then stocking up too. I mean, if you can afford to, buy a half cow from a local farmer, one, you're putting money back into the economy, your local economy, and you're getting the price per pound, you're getting it a lot cheaper. Granted, maybe $6 a pound total on it, but you're like, oh man, I can buy Meyer, I saw it popped up on Facebook. Meyer's got ground beef for $2.99 a pound this week. But you're like, well, it's $6 a pound buying it from the farmer, but you're not taking into account those rib. Yeah, you're not taking into account the ribeyes that are $16 or $18 a pound. So it averages out that, and also you know where it's coming from if you find a local farmer that's got the stuff.
Yeah, you're not taking into account all the chemicals that's been injected into that meat either.
Right.
Yeah. That, and when you're buying ground beef, it might be coming from 10 or 20 different cows. You know, when you buy it from that farmer, that is coming from one cow.
Right.
So.
And there's folks out there everywhere that you can resource and source all of the stuff from. So.
Yep.
Yeah. Shelly is what was it? Cherry Hill Farms?
Cherry Farms.
Yeah. Are they coming back?
They're supposed to be.
Yeah. We've got.
They told Jessica they were. We've got that. It's like a local farmer that they sell pork and beef, and all of it's grown on their place, and no chemicals, no antibiotics, all of that kind of thing. And we love them to death. They were at our festival in the spring, and they're not really. I mean, of course, they've got their trailer out there, and they'll sell you ground beef, and they'll even hang on to it till you get ready to leave, so you don't have to walk around with a bag of meat. But they're kind of in it for the long game to get their name out there and get exposure and start meeting those people and developing those relationships, because they're all about building community too. So yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool, Bill. They pulled their trailer in; it's full of freezers, and they were sitting there inside, and you could go up and you could get bacon, pork, beef, whatever you wanted. I'm like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah,
and they have beef bacon. Did you see that?
I didn't see that.
Oh my God, it's so good. I buy that from her every once in a while. I don't like. I mean, I love it. It tastes really good. I like pork bacon better, but the beef bacon, it's pretty good.
I'm getting hungry now.
I'm all about some bacon.
Oh yeah. Now, Bill, Shelly and I, if you don't know, Shelly and I will process a lot of our own animals and stuff like that. It's nothing for Shelly and I. Shelly could call me up in the wintertime and be like, hey, we're going to do a pig on Saturday. And I'm like,
or 4.
Yeah. Last time she's like, we're going to do some pigs on Saturday. Will you come up? I was like, yes. I was like, I'll come. We did 4 pigs on that Saturday. Everybody was whipped. I'm like, this is not fun. So, but yeah, Shelly and I will do that. We cure our bacon, do all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's probably close to 90% of the meat that my family eats, we raise here on my place.
Nice.
So, which is nice because you know what they're eating, you know how they've been raised and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, Prepared Citizens is here. You know him, don't you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Well.
Oh, goodness. Hondo.
Is your dog out there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's been running around, but he's back up on the porch now.
Oh. Well, Bill, what else have you got for us before we dig into the nitty-gritty of the festival?
I'm good. I'm just stoked. I'm glad that we connected, and I'm super stoked about coming up for sure.
And if it honestly, you had popped up on my radar on YouTube, and I'd watched some of the videos. And then if it wasn't for Morgan at Winter Warfare, which he's one of our sponsors for the festival, which he's got an amazing company. It's winterwarfare.com is the website. But Morgan told me, he was like, you need to get a hold of Stokermatic. He's close to you. And he told me, he was like, he's in Tennessee. And I was like, okay. So I started looking. I was like, he's not really in Tennessee, but it's close.
Yeah.
So, and that's how. So if it wasn't for Morgan sponsoring the festival, I wouldn't have been, because I kind of figured, watching some of the videos, I'm like, well, he's hooked up with Randall, and him and Randall are buddies. So and I'm figuring he's like, well, he's probably, way out west somewhere.
Yeah.
But then it turns out it's like, you're not really that far. I was like, we need to do this. So
used to be far, but not anymore.
yeah. What do you like? Do you like the western part of the U.S. or do you like the eastern part better?
I like the population density of the West. As long as you're not on like the I-5 corridor or any other interstates, that's super nice. Big sky views are great. Even the big mountain sky views are awesome. But mostly, I just like being where my family's at, and we've been blessed to live all over the country and quite a few places around the world. So anywhere where I'm hanging my hat up I'm a happy man.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
So,
Shelley.
Bill, why don't you tell people where they can find you? Like, how can we check out all your stuff? Which I've been checking out all your stuff for the last few days when I knew that we were going to do this. But
Yeah, so a couple main places. My website, Stokermatic.com. And on YouTube, Stokermatic, super easy to find. Instagram, it's Stokercraft. Somebody stole Stokermatic, and Instagram's weird about closing accounts because it's not actually used. But and I'm on. Got a Facebook group, Stokermatic Fieldcraft and Survival. That's pretty much where I spend the majority of my time online. Super easy to find. And I'm small enough that I try to anymore. It's hard for me to respond to every comment anymore. Like I used to be very intentional on a YouTube video because I believe in community and I don't want things to just be one-sided. I try to respond to as much as I can, but if somebody gets on like a Facebook group or sends me an email, somehow they find my email or whatever, like I do everything I can to respond as quick as I can because I don't want to let things go to waste. And again, I get better from feedback, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So I'm always tell me what you got, and I'll get gooder.
like that. That's good.
Oh yeah, Chuck showed up. Homestead Medical. We'll
Hey,
get you hooked
Chuck.
up with Chuck. So Chuck will be there. So
Nice.
He's probably not far from you. He's probably closer to Bill than he is us.
No. Chuck's in West Virginia.
I know, but it's like just right there.
Yeah, depending on where you're at.
He's in the southern part of the state. It's probably pretty close right in there.
Wow. Shelley, tell everybody some festival stuff.
So our festival, the Kentucky Sustainable Living, Homesteading, and Preparedness Festival, is October 26th and 27th. On the 25th, on the Friday before, we're going to have 4 workshops. One is a canning workshop. One is a radio workshop. And that one's going to be about setting up an emergency communications plan. We're also going to have an herbal workshop, and then Chuck down here in Homestead Medical, he's going to be doing a suturing and wound closing workshop. Nice. So you can check those out on the website. It's KentuckySustainableLiving.com. You can get all the information about those. On Saturday and Sunday, y'all, we've got some pretty awesome speakers lined up. One of those is going to be Bill Stoker that you see right. Where's he at?
Down below.
Down here. Bill's going to be talking about defending your homestead, setting up security and all of that kind of thing with your homestead. And I think you're going to want to check that out just from the little bit that he was talking to us about. I know that I want to check it out. We're also going to have William Bond, who is Billy Bond's son, Permapasture Farm. He's the pasture raised pimp. So you'll want to come check him out because he's going to be talking about permaculture homesteading, building your permaculture homestead, and giving kind of a blueprint of how to do that. And just so seriously, from experience, he is the reason that we have done what we've done. When we bought our farm, we were clueless. We didn't know where to start. I didn't know where to begin. We reached out to William. He came to our place and did a consultation for us, and he got everything set up. And I mean, of course, like we did the work, but he laid out the plan. He made the plan, and I'm all about a plan, let me tell you. So you'll definitely want to come hear what he has to say. We've also got Sean Terrio, who's going to talk about cybersecurity. And I'm talking not like installing whatever virus protector on your computer. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about unplugging from the matrix. I'm talking about having devices that can't be tracked, that, a cell phone that you're like when you talk about, oh, I want to go to Target and look for underwear, then you don't get all these ads from Target for underwear, right? It's none of that stuff. You'll definitely want to talk to Sean Terrio and find out what he has to say. Let's see, we've got Kowalski Mountain that's coming to do a beekeeping class. Well, not a class, a talk. And then Local Prepper is going to be doing Preparedness 101. Byron Russell is going to be there talking about drone defense. Who else have we got? Randall White, Flomaton Famous, is going to be coming and talking about tree grafting. And the one I'm super excited about, this Chronically Healthy, coming to talk about healthy living and alternatives. Y'all, if you didn't get the wake up call 4 years ago that nobody in the medical thing has your best interest at heart, I just don't even know what to say to you right now. You need to come hear what Chronically Healthy has to say, and how to get off of all of that whatever stuff that they're trying to make you take.
And Angry Prepper's going to be there. Jason.
Angry Prepper's going to be there. Have you met Angry Prepper?
No, man.
You'll like him.
He's a pretty cool guy.
He's super, super nice guy. Really, he's a really cool guy. Wealth of information. Lives in New York City, and tries to educate people on how to deal with stuff, kind of like what you're talking about. Because the whole, I watched your video today. I know this is like off topic with the festival, but I watched your video, one of your videos today, about Escape from Atlanta. It says bugging out after it all goes to hell.
Yeah.
And that video, the one thing that struck me about that, which I really liked how you did it, by the way, but the one thing that struck me about that is you said something in there about, if you live in a rural or a urban area and something is going to happen if you get out of that area a couple days before it happens, but how often is that going to happen, right? Usually you don't know that the stuff is hitting the fan until it's done blown through the fan, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Randy and I have told family members, especially our family that's in Indianapolis, we've told them, y'all can come down here. You can come and hang out with us. And I don't know that they'd be able to get out of that. Like you were talking about knowing routes to get places that are safe to get through and that kind of thing. Once it happens, I don't know that you can. I mean, think about Katrina and all those people that were trapped in New Orleans and couldn't get out or didn't have the resources to get out, or all the buses were gone or whatever. And I don't know, that kind of thing. If you don't have a plan, if you don't have a way to escape, then you better be listening to somebody that will tell you what to do in an urban area. It's just, it's a whole scary deal to me. So,
but before I left Washington, when I was stationed there at Fort Lewis, that we had this horrific train accident that derailed, and unfortunately, a couple of people killed. But that train accident stopped traffic on I-5 for probably 6 hours. And there are no alternate routes to go north and south in Washington except for I-5 if you're west of the Cascades. Like, that's it. So, yes, ma'am, it can be pretty scary. And sometimes you have no warning, like a train accident. And other times you may, but you gotta plan for both, for sure.
Wow. Yeah. And then what do you do? Like the train, you can't go anywhere. 6 hours, you're running out of gas. Right. If it's cold outside, you're really screwed, right? If you don't have blankets, if you don't have snacks or water, and you're definitely going to run out of gas if it's cold outside. Oh my gosh.
And if it's snowing, like, is your exhaust backing up to you because you're now you're stuck in a snowdrift? You know, you're gonna die in
Right.
the car.
I just
Oh, yeah.
people yeah. I don't know.
Oh yeah. And then also one last thing we forgot. Saturday night we're having a charity dinner for
Yep.
Caleb House, which that's Bear Independence. It's one of his organizations for they are building a facility to house and rehabilitate children that they've rescued from sex trafficking. So that dinner is Saturday night. You can get tickets on the website for it. We're going to have a prime rib dinner, and you get to sit around. If you buy your tickets, you might get to sit by Bill if he'll let people sit by him, and get to talk to him while you're eating some prime rib and enjoying some good bourbon Saturday night. So get your tickets for that. So, Bill, any final thoughts before we scoot out for the night?
No, sir. I'm just super excited to come up and see y'all face to face, as well as everybody else who comes out for what is going to be an awesome event for sure.
Yeah. All
I
right.
can't wait.
Yeah.
It's always
Bill?
like a big homecoming for us.
Oh yeah, it's cool. We get to see people that we only get to see, a couple times a year, and it is like a big homecoming. So, but guys, we appreciate you watching tonight, and we're going to close it out. And Bill, we appreciate it. Stick on here for just a minute. We're going to end this. We will see y'all later.
Bye.
Stay stoked.